is people hate it, right? They just don't think it's worth the time. So they get a land lead and they think, oh, geez, oh man, I got this $25,000 land lead and wherever it is. And they think it's a waste of time. And this is my philosophy about land. And that is, let's say you get a land lead in Whitewater. I'm opening escrow this morning on one in Whitewater for $45,000, 2% commission. So a whopping $900 total commission, 20% goes to Zillow, so I'm going to make a few $100 on this deal. And I always say, well, if someone said, hey, there's a $300 check waiting for you in Whitewater, will you drive and go pick it up? Yeah, I'd drive to Whitewater and I'd pick up a $300 check, right? So that's kind of my mentality. I don't poo-poo land. I don't look at it as bad because land opens up other opportunities with that same person, right? The whole key to this business is building relationships and building a book of business, right? And we're not going to all be able to build a book of business with just $800,000 single family home cash buyers, right? And so that person who's buying that $25,000 piece of land, I have a guy right now that I'm meeting tonight at 7:30 and look at a house in Fontana. It'll be the fourth deal I've done with him in 3 years. Two of them were land. Okay. So don't look at every one of these opportunities as an opportunity to build a relationship. Not don't it's hard sometimes because we all want to make money. We all want to, succeed. But you can't have you got to have a long game approach to real estate, not a short game approach, right? The way I look at the opportunities we have on this team is this. You're going to have an opportunity if you do, and I firmly believe in Andy's philosophy on Bam Bam and everything that he teaches, right? And what this team is going to allow you to do is in 3 or 4 years, you should have a book of business of people that you've done business with of, 60 to 100 people in your pipeline, right? Those 60 or 100 people will come back to you if you're doing your job correctly, right? So look at everything that we're doing as an opportunity to build a relationship. The money will follow if you do that, right? And so I have the distinction of making the smallest commission check I think probably ever on this team of $11.40 on a piece of land I sold in Lake Elsinore. That being said, I've written 4 other offers for that same guy, right? Now, he's a low baller. He looking to steal stuff, but I'll do more deals with that guy. And you know what? At some point, it's not going to be low baller and stealing stuff. He'll come in and say, hey, I want to buy this $600,000 house. Will you write the offer for me? Well, if I hadn't worked with him on all these other smaller deals, I will never have that opportunity. So that's my first thing about land. Look at it as an opportunity to build a relationship. Don't look at it and go, oh shit, I got another land deal. Oh, I got to drive to Banning. Oh, whatever. Just treat it. I treat every deal like it's a big deal because it has the potential to be a big deal. That's the first thing about land. The other thing about land that people, the one agents don't do their job, right? When they list land. A lot of times we get these land listings and we go on the MLS like this one here. And I found this, I tried to find one that would be accurate. So, and you go, oh, okay, okay, we're going to meet. I'm going to show this person this land on Sierra Vista Road in Phelan, right? And you click on it and you go, okay, let's see where she put the pin. And they don't put the pin in the right spot. The agents are lazy. They may not even know where the land is because a lot of times they've never seen the land they're listing, right? So she puts this pin right here. Is it this lot that's for sale? No, because it'll tell you, right? And this has got a house on it. I don't think this is the lot that's for sale.
I don't know. I can't see what you're clicking on. Sorry,
Yeah,
Patrick.
we just see the MLS screenshot, Patrick.
Do I have to share this screen then too? Laney, do I have to share if I change things, do I have to go to share? Hang on, guys. Sorry,
So go to stop share real quick,
right here. Oh,
the red one.
okay. Let me close this out. Let's just say, okay. Stop share.
And then share again.
Sorry, guys.
And then do this one that should
No
show-
worries.
This
Yeah,
should
we
share everything?
Yeah. It'll share whatever's on your screen.
Oh, okay, perfect.
And then you share.
Okay. Let's see if this worked, guys. Sorry for the confusion. Yep, there we go.
Okay,
So
we can see it.
the one thing I'm going to tell you guys is this. I use this map, the satellite view. It is extremely valuable in all real estate, but especially in land, right? So when you click on that, you get this and it'll bring you to the pin that the agent has dropped, right? Now, I don't think that she's selling Sierra Vista Road, which is where she dropped the pin right in the middle of Sierra Vista Road, right? And so if you're trying to find the lot and the agent hasn't done their job like this, then you go to the assessor's map, which I've already done. How do I get rid of this bar up here, Laney? Oh, there we go. Which I've done here. You go to the assessor's map and you download the map and you know that you're looking at 34, you gotta take a peek at the APN number, right? But once you get that assessor map opened, that's going to give you a good idea where this lot is. Okay, so now we just this is all. I peek back and I go, what was the APN again? Oh, it's 8134. Okay, so then we go to here and we got to zoom in. Where's 81? Okay, there's 36. Where's 34? We got to you got to hunt and peck. You got to find it, right? And that'll give you the information that you're looking for.
To the right.
Right bottom.
If the 34 is in a circle. You're right.
Further to the right, the last one on the right, Patrick, it's vacant. Keep going, right, one more.
Oh,
the
so
right.
it's been hidden. This is being hidden by this thing over here. I'm gonna put this down. Okay. Yeah, so now we know it's right at the corner of Sundown Drive in Sierra Vista, right? So then we can go back. Okay, so here's is it sundown or sundown? It's not sunset. So yeah, so let's see if we can find sundown. And maybe it means sunset. So let's see if this is the actual lot that's for sale.
Because at sundown, the sun sets. It's the same, right?
Find sundown. So maybe, see, this is what I'm talking about. These agents, so let's find, and this is what you have to do sometimes. You have to literally. Yeah, you can bring him down and get a street view. Right. Okay, so what other streets are we looking for here? Sahara, right? And this is what you have to do sometimes, because if you're going to be, setting up an appointment to show someone land, then you got to be able to tell them where the land is, right? So let's see. Boy, this is okay. So here's Sierra.
I saw Riggs as well, so it should be close.
So let's see. Sunny Slope in Sierra Vista. So this is, this is the challenge with land sometimes, right? You got to, and I use this satellite view. And the other thing I do with this satellite view is this satellite view matches up almost perfectly to Google Maps satellite view. So when I'm out on a piece of property, I'll take a screenshot on my phone of the lot lines from this satellite view, and then I'll have Google Maps open, and I'll be like, okay, see where we are right now, and I'll flip back and forth between Google Maps and this in my photo. I'll be like, okay, we're kind of on the southwest corner of the property right here. See where this, because all the landmarks on the satellite view and on the Google satellite view are almost exact. They're using the same exact photos. But this is what I'm talking about. This is freaking so frustrating sometimes with these agents who don't know how to place pins correctly, right?
Hey, Pat.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Don.
Yeah,
Hey,
go ahead.
sometimes what I do is I'll go to the county assessor's website, type in the APN number and parcel number, and you'll get the exact location from their website.
Do what, Don?
So I'll go to the county assessor's
Yep.
website. I'll type in their the parcel number, and it'll bring up the location of the lot.
Are you talking about on Realist?
No, I'm talking like San Bernardino County or Riverside County.
Okay.
You can go to their assessor's website.
Road. I can't even find Sunny Slope Road on this thing, right?
Yeah, on that.
Which it should be. This is so frustrating. And this is the frustrating part about land, because you want to be able to find the closest house. You want to be able to find, when you're going to meet someone at a piece of property, you don't have an address, right? So the goal is to find the actual lot and then be able to text your client that you're meeting and say, hey, we're going to meet at this address, right? To be able to say, and then you have a fixed point that everybody can put in their GPS, and you say, I'll be waiting for you in front of this house, blah, blah, blah. And because you've looked at the map, okay, we're 4 lots down from this address. We know, and it gives you an idea, but it at least gives you a pinpoint of some place to meet, right? This is the frustrating part of dealing with land. And then the other thing you get a lot of questions of is, oh, and these people, they always expect us, whether it's selling houses, and why are they selling? How the hell do I know? I've never met the seller before, right? Same thing with land. Oh, is there power or water nearby, right? The first thing you got to do is you got to find the map, you got to find it on the satellite view, and then see where the closest house is, right? If it's a vacant lot between 2 houses, you can pretty much tell them power's right there. And if they're on public water, you got public water. Right. And sometimes you click on the listing to see what they list as their water source. Right. And so I use this satellite view whenever I'm doing land to get that kind of information, or I can look and say, okay, that I know that there's power 4 lots away or whatever. Right. Because people want to know that. And this gives us at least a starting point to say, well, when we get out there, we can look and see if there's power lines closer by, but we know for sure that there's a house a quarter mile away that has power, so worst case scenario, you have to bring in power a quarter mile. So this happened with a deal with Diane up in Phelan, where she had a property in escrow, and she called me, and are you on the line, Diane? Oh, and she's like, yeah, they're going to go out and see if power and water are nearby. And I found the lot. I go, Diane, there's not power or water within a mile of that place. There's nothing developed. I mean, it was literally a piece of land in the middle of nowhere. And she's like, oh, well, we already have it in escrow. I'm like, did they ever look at the property before they bought it? No. They ended up having to cancel the escrow because they get out there and there's nothing, nothing around. And so the other thing I will tell people now with Tesla power walls and all that stuff is, power is not a big a deal as it used to be, because you'll spend the same amount of money on a Tesla power, or probably save money putting in solar panels in a power wall than paying tens of thousands of dollars to bring power in from a long ways away. So then it becomes water. Wells are another issue. Everybody put this in your phone. Ken Lynch. Ken and Lynch. And hang on, I'm going to give you his number. He owns L.O. Lynch. It's a well drilling company in Hemet. Okay. His number is 951-654-0491. He's a well driller. Okay.
Can you say that again? Sorry, Ken Lynch?
Yes. And I'm going to tell you guys why. And I've never done a deal with this guy.
Hi, this is Asia. Hi.
I've never had him drill a well,
Hi.
but I had a piece of
Good. How are
property
you?
that we were looking at in Moreno Valley. And we were trying to find out what it would cost to drill a well. And I called Ken, Good old dude. He's 70 years old, 65 years old. And the guy was, he was amazing and he was honest. And that's what I look for in people is honesty, right? So I gave him the he goes, well, give me the APN number. So I gave him the parcel number. He looked it up. He said, yeah, there's no water there. Now, if he was unethical, he would have taken the deal, drilled a dry hole, because they get paid whether they hit water or not. That's the other thing your people need to understand. A well driller comes out and starts drilling, they're getting paid. They don't, there's no guarantee they're going to make, they're not going to get you water. And this guy was amazing. He knew, he goes, yes, that lot 2 down to the left. Yeah, we tried to drill a well there. We went down 800 feet, got nothing. And it was like literally, he was with me 2 days before looking at this lot. He goes, did you see that lot across the valley where they're doing all that earthwork? And I'm like, holy shit, really? And he goes, yeah. He goes, there's water right there. He goes, that half-mile difference. He goes, there's an aquifer there. You hit water there. He goes, there's no water where your lot is. So I told my guy, don't buy this land. There's no water. So I've always recommended Ken because he told me, he goes, I've been in this business too damn long to waste my time drilling holes. He wants, and so when people call and they go, what's a well going to cost? I go, well, here, call this guy. He'll let you know. He'll probably know if there's water there or not because he's been doing it for so long.
Hey, Pat, will him or his company also do well inspections?
I'm sure they do. I'd be
Okay.
shocked if they don't, Blake.
Got it. Thank you.
Hey, Pat, it's Felicia. Can I ask a question?
No questions for Felicia. Andy typically said no.
When, when, like you just said, you tell your client, hey, here's his number, call him. You have your client call him? You don't call him?
I can go both ways. I would like the last one I just had down in Palm Springs. We ended up having to cancel because they told us water was close by. But when I went out and drove it, the nearest water was a mile away. And I just put my client in a group text with Ken and just said, hey, Ken, I'm looking at, and gave him the APN number. And then she called me and said, yeah, the price to drill the well is going to be too much. So I never spoke to him personally. But I mean, if you've never talked to him, it may be worthwhile calling him and, you can go both ways, right? Or you can just say to your clients, okay, if you want to talk to someone who knows, that is honest and does wells, here's a number, here's the APN number. And like I said, it's just good when, as agents, it's good when someone says, oh, wells, and you go, I got a well guy, right? That adds value. We're always trying to add value and show worth, right? If you sit there and go, well, Google well guy, you just don't, so if you can say, oh, I got a well guy, Ken Lynch, I literally have him saved, Ken Lynch, well guy. That's how I have him saved in my phone. Right. Yeah. And so if you can at least show that you have oh, I know someone, and you can, I'm telling you right now, this guy is dead honest. He's not going to drill a well if he doesn't think there's water there. If he doesn't know, he'll have to drill, right? But if he has any experience, and like I said, this guy was amazing on this property in Moreno Valley. It was like he was standing there with me looking at it. He's like, I'm like, are you serious?
Patrick, I have a question.
Oh, okay.
So when you said if there's not water on the property, so does he have to do like a geologic inspection first, or how would he find that out if there's like nothing for miles, like you had said, if there's neighbor near you that has water, then you have water.
Right. Well, that's my point when dealing with this guy. He's drilled so many wells in Southern California that there's a good chance if you call and say, I'm looking and this is the APN number, or here's the city or whatever, he is probably drilled enough wells in the area to know I can guarantee you most of the time he's going to know whether there's water there or not because of all the wells they've drilled. And he's not going to tell you there's water. If he knows there's no water, he's going to tell you and be honest about it. And that's why I like him.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And
Hey, Pat, another question.
Yeah,
Oh, was someone have a question in the room?
no, that's right. Go ahead, Blake. We'll get to that one next.
Regarding how do you figure out for land what the setbacks are and if there's any height restrictions?
Height
Like
restriction?
for building. Yeah, like if they're going to build up like a 2, 3, 5-story building, something like that. Do you know, is that all city related or
All depends. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
well, it all depends on whether you're in county or city, right? And
Right.
so, you know, your normal setbacks when you're dealing, your normal setbacks are going to be 5 feet from the sidelines, 10 feet from the front, 10 feet from the back. Those are pretty standard, right? So, and it all depends on the municipality, but that is, if you look at most zoning regulations, when they start talking about setbacks, it's 5 feet on each side of the house and 10 feet on the front and the back. As far as
Okay,
height
gotcha.
restrictions go, that you'd have to go to the and go to local zoning, right, to see if there's any height restrictions. I mean, most people aren't going to build anything over 2 stories, right?
Right.
I mean, I've shown a lot of homes. I don't think I've shown a 5-story home. And
I
if
think
you,
it might be a commercial lot that this guy's wanting
well,
to buy.
commercial is a whole other animal.
Yeah, I know that's not what this is
Commercial
about. I'm just
is
curious.
commercial gets crazy where, like, I'm trying to find a guy a piece of property right now down in the desert. He wants to put like a 15 to 20 unit apartment building. I can't find a law
Jeez.
firm that'll allow him to do that.
Yeah.
You know, because
Okay.
even though it's zone commercial, there's one lot that he came in on that's on Washington Street in Palm Desert. And the most they'll allow on there is 10 units. And at the price, it doesn't work. You know, you need more than 10 units to have it be a profitable deal. And so
Okay.
commercial is a whole other animal.
Gotcha.
We really don't deal with that many commercial deals. Most of our land people are residential. And then the other thing is, if you're meeting people and showing them residential land, right? If this is something else I try to do as well. I try to find something around that piece of property and at least know what the price is, right? And because sometimes you say, oh, they think people have the misperception that it's easy to build a house, right? Oh, I'm just going to buy this piece of land. I'm going to have and they think they're going to be in a house in 3 months. They're not going to be in a house for a year and a half, right? Yeah. And so that's the other thing you need to try to educate people on is, are you aware, are you familiar with what the process is going to be here, right? You gotta get permits. I mean, there's just a lot to it. You got to get water connected. So a lot of times I'll try to push people to say, hey, you're looking at this piece of property and it's, $35,000. We can buy this junk mobile home, like 4 doors down, is on the market for 250. You're going to get a piece of property that already has water, already has power. All those questions are taken out of it, right? It may be worthwhile trying to buy that and then upgrade the house that put a new manufactured home on that property. Much easier than it is to start with raw land, right? Now, that being said, I don't ever, if someone says to me, that's the other thing that I think people, especially agents that aren't on this team, but if someone wants to write an offer, write a freaking offer, right? Don't ever try to talk someone out of writing an offer, even if it seems like a ridiculous offer. I will write any offer anybody wants me to write. I will qualify it if I think it's a total insulting offer. I'll make sure I speak to the listing agent before I send it over, and I'll say, sending you an offer. I'm not a moron. I realize that this is really, really low, but I'm only doing what my client wants me to do. Would appreciate, taking a look at it. If you can counter us, that would be great. But don't ever, I talk to so many people and they're like, oh, I was working with this agent. I wanted to write an offer on this house, but he wouldn't write the offer. And they wanted to write like a $400,000 offer on a $500,000 house. And I tell people all the time, I'll write an offer for $1 if you want me to. I don't care what, I'm just the vessel that you're for you, right? So don't ever say no to someone who's the most important thing you can do with a client in this business is get them used to writing offers, right? That first offer is the biggest hurdle, right? Once they've seen that first offer, I'm in escrow right now with a couple in Ukaipa. It took them 5 days to sign the first offer I sent them. And she literally texted me like 2 days in. Yeah, we're about halfway through reading this whole thing. I'm like, I've never read the whole thing. And they literally went through and good for them. I mean, they're signing an offer for $400,000 and I've never had anybody do it before. Right. But guess what? We didn't get that house. But the next time I sent them an offer, they signed it in 5 minutes. It didn't take them 5 days, right? And I told them, it's the same offer. You don't need to read this thing again for 5 days. So, but most important thing we can do as agents is getting people used to writing offers, right? And as far as land goes, this one here is just a picture perfect example of what I'm talking about. And I didn't even realize how picture perfect it is, that you can't even find the freaking lot on the satellite view, which is extremely frustrating.
What's the address on this one, Pat? I want to see if I can find it real quick.
Yeah, no kidding, huh? The address on it, Blake, is just Sierra Vista Road.
No, no zero, nothing.
I don't think it even had a zero. Hang on just a second. How do I get rid of this thing at the top, Laney? The black bar that I can't see anything. Let me see. Oh, I can move it like that. I'm good. I'm good. I moved it. Yeah, just Sierra Vista Road, Fueling, California, 92371.
Okay.
It says northwest corner of Sundown and Sierra Vista. Okay, well, we can't even find Sundown on this map, right? There's Sunset. There's no Sundown. I don't even understand where Sundown is. So then what I'll do in that case sometimes is I will go to Google. And I will literally Google right, so. Let's see what this brings us. So hold on. So there is a Sierra and Sundown. Now now we go to layers because I want it. Because once again, I can take this view from Google is going to be the exact same satellite view that we're looking at. And let's get some. So now I know then I'll go to here. I'll zoom out and I'll find that street that's squiggly. And let's see how far off her pin is from where this is actually located. It's not even close. It is not even close because they are.
I located Sierra Vista and Sundown, so it's on the northwest corner.
38. So like I said, this is what you have to do sometimes with these horrible listing agents that don't want to show. So we're way down here on this property. See what I mean? Nowhere near where she dropped the pin. There's Sundown. I found Sundown. Sierra Vista. Okay, boom, here's the lot. Now let's compare that to where this person dropped the pin. They dropped the pin. We're nowhere near where she dropped the pin for this lot. So now this is easy now that we finally found it, right? And I had to go to Google. I had to Google the intersection of Sierra Vista and Sundown, right? But now that we found it, you know what we can do? We can tell our client, hey, put 8738 Sierra Vista Road in your Google. This lot's right across the street, right? Now, if you had relied on the pin that this agent had dropped, you'd be 8 miles away from this piece of property and look like an idiot when the people showed up, and you wouldn't even be able to find it.
Hey, Pat.
Yeah.
One other helpful tip when there are no houses nearby, what I'll do is basically exactly what you just did. I'll locate the two streets.
Yep.
And then I will go on my iPhone, go to the same spot. I'll locate the two streets and I'll match it up with the map on my computer, and I'll just place a pin on my
Yeah.
Apple Maps, and then I'll send that pin to myself and the client.
Well, the other thing you can do, Blake, is this, right? You can literally right click on this and give them those coordinates. And
Oh,
say,
perfect. Does that translate
plug-
to the Apple Maps?
if you plug those coordinates into Apple Maps or Google, it should bring you right to that coordinate.
That's
So if
awesome.
there are
I
no
did not know
houses
that.
around, you
That
can,
is such a good tip. Thank you.
so that if there are no houses around, you just send those coordinates and say, plug these into Google Maps. Yeah, just right clicked on the pin. Yep. And you could drop a pin anywhere, right? So if I say, drop a pin there, and then I can right click on that, it gives me those coordinates, right? So I've done that in the past, used coordinates as well. But it's a lot easier if you can find an address close by, because then it's a lot easier to type out, and people don't miss a negative sign or a digit and end up, on the moon versus meeting you at the piece of property. And then the other question we get a lot is, I do not have a good surveyor. I have a guy, he's a friend of mine's father-in-law. He's just getting too old. And every time I've tried to call him to do a job for me, he's busy and he just doesn't have time to do it. So I get that question a lot. Do you have a surveyor? I don't have a surveyor. I will put in, so when you do land, if your people are worried about the survey, make sure you download the addendum for the offer. And it's the septic well land boundary addendum, right? And then just go down and, I mean, most people just want to know where the corners are. So I'll if I'm going to put that in my offer, I'll just go down and click, mark 4 corners kind of thing. Most people don't want to do it because, like I said, surveyors are not easy. They're not it's not easy to get a surveyor out to do a piece of property, and they're not cheap. But that's the other question a lot, when I'm walking land and they go, well, where's the boundaries? And that's when I have my phone out with my Google Maps and I have the picture with and these boundaries that they put on the MLS are not perfect, but they're close, right? And I always qualify it that way. This isn't perfect, but we're going to be close. And we'll kind of walk and have my phone out and I'll say, oh yeah, now we're at this corner. Now we'll walk all the way up here. Okay, now see, we're about this. So that everything down below us is the piece of property we're looking at. Well, then let's get that out to everybody and see where he works, because a lot of them won't travel, right? Like I had a guy, I needed a piece of land surveyed in Yucca Valley, and I couldn't get a guy to go from Palm Springs to Yucca Valley to do a survey, right? I mean, some of them, they just don't want to, and they're busy. They're busy. So you're learning all that yourself. You know how easy it is to build then.
It's horrifying, but now I got a good guy, because he could have charged me the $8,000. It would have been to get a certificate of compliance, because this land was 30 acres, got split into 4. So now I got 8.5 acres of that 30, but didn't have a certificate of compliance, as they could find when I go to pull permits. They said it's not here.
Can't hear him.
I don't know if you can hear me, but
I was just saying that I have a good surveyor. This is Howard. I'm building a house here in Temecula, in Duluth, just up the street from the office. And so I called the surveyor, and I'll give it to everybody. Super honest guy, because he could have charged me for the certificate of compliance, which you need on a property when it's been divided into pieces. I had 30 acres here in Temecula, and it was divided in 1994 into 4 parts. And when I went to go pull my building permits, they said, you don't have a certificate of compliance. You need to get a surveyor out to do that. Well, he would have been about $8,000 to do this. But he actually called me back after a couple of days, and he said, hey, I could have just rolled out there and done this, but I really believe after looking at your project and your property and some of the notes that you have one. You need to go to the county record department and see if they can look at microfilm. And I did that, long story short, and I have a certificate of compliance, and it didn't cost me the $8,000. He didn't charge me anything for his service. So he's an honest guy. I'll put him out there. He's Riverside County, essentially. So anywhere, I suppose, in that region. And so I was just sharing that. We got a good guy in the pocket if we need one. and Pat will be back in a second. Restroom break. No, and what I was going to ask earlier in this conversation, I shared all that, Pat, was, and I'll hand this back to you, but was I was going to ask you about your well guy if he drills mineral drilling, because I got someone who wants to do the mineral into the hot springs.
He probably does. I don't know why he wouldn't. The other thing that I want everybody to kind of be careful of, and I'm going to say two things. Don't be your own worst enemy, right? In Victoria, this is kind of making me think of that commercial lot that you bought,
Yeah,
right? Don't overthink anything, right? If your client says, I want to buy it, write the offer, right? You remember
Yeah.
you were kind of like, geez, shouldn't he check and see? Shouldn't blah, blah, blah. If he's saying write the offer, write the offer.
Right.
Don't be an impediment to writing an offer, right?
right. I think what I got from you was that there's not as much work involved on the backside, you know, from us to be able to help a buyer buy a piece of land. It's not like buying a house where you have to, you know, we have to do inspections and appraisal, and we have all these things we have to share with them. You don't overshare with them. It's not your responsibility to investigate every single aspect of the property.
Not only is it not your responsibility, you don't want to take any responsibility for that.
Well, of course not.
But
Yeah.
don't ever give any, and that's my other comment is,
Yeah.
don't ever give definitive answers to anything.
Right. Even like, is there
Qualified
water
answer-
on the property? Well, there's water. It looks like there's
Right.
water across the street.
Right. Well, and like a perfect example, the land I opened this morning, this is the text I got from her. I've signed the paperwork and email it to you. Wanted to confirm that one more time that there is water and electricity by the property and that we can level the land. I said, we know water's in the street because we looked at there's fire hydrants in the street. I said, the house next door must have electricity, right? There's a house right next door to this lot. I said, as far as leveling the land, I've never experienced a case where the county hasn't allowed an owner to level a lot to make it usable. I didn't say to her, yes, you can level the land. I said, I've never heard of it, right?
Mhm.
Then if it happens to them, I'll be like, now I've heard of it, right? But I'm not going to say, oh, 100% you can level the land, because
Right.
that's not my decision to make.
Right.
And so don't ever make definitive statements, qualify your statements, especially if they're in writing.
Right.
Don't ever say, absolutely, you can do that.
And
No.
as far as leveling the land,
And if they can't, they can come back and sue you.
Yeah.
Just this expert in real estate told me that I absolutely could. So always make qualifying statements of, I'm pretty sure, or we'd have to verify that, or that's up to the county to decide, or whatever.
right.
And this is just to protect yourself from any kind of liability of people coming back on you and saying, that person told me I could do this. Hang on one second.
Right. And the more we do with the land and the more questions we ask as far as, you know, trying to put them in touch with people to get the answers, the more we learn. I did talk to a friend of mine who was putting manufactured homes on land. And according to him, you can only level so many cubic feet on a piece of land. So and that's in the city that he was working in. Every city is going to be different. So a lot of times, do you just send them back to like building and zoning and say, take the APN number and go and ask them the questions that you have?
100%.
Yeah.
So Angela here. Yeah, I was going to add to that and exactly what you just mentioned. What I usually tell them up front, especially because I do deal with a lot of Spanish speaking clients that think that they can just buy this $10,000 piece of land and throw a trailer on it. So I let them know up front, you know, every county's different. I have to call the county, do your due diligence, because I could tell you, especially if I was shady, I could tell you, oh yeah, throw a trailer on it and add some water. And then you buy it and then you're coming back to me, right? So you never want to be assertive with, oh yeah, you do this, you do that. I always just go back to, hey, here's the APN number, contact the city. You have to do your own due diligence. This is what I know about this area, but you need to also double check yourself. And then
Right.
The other thing for everybody to know is, I don't know anywhere that they allow you to live in an RV on a piece of land. So
There's only two ways to get water on land and electricity because I tried it. I had my motorhome sitting on this land just a month ago. Just started living now with my friend on his land. But while we were there, now I have an association, so it's even more complex. But outside of the association, there's two ways to get water on land. You either have a building plan and you apply for a building permit, or you have an irrigation plan. You have to have you have to plant trees. So somebody wants to live in a trailer, it's not necessarily against the ruling to monitor your irrigation that you have on the land. So you can literally do an irrigation plan or have a civil engineer do an irrigation plan for your project and get electricity and water to the land. And you could have 10 trees maybe you plant on the lot. And now you have water and you have power, and you just happen to be wanting to monitor your trees on the land. And so you
Oh.
park your RV there because you're the irrigation manager. And you stay there and manage your property that way as the owner and the irrigation manager. And you can have as little as 10 trees. Had to find out the hard way.
And then, but then the other, like I have a buyer who's looking in Lake Elsinore. She wants to park her RV on it. And I was very upfront with her. I said, and she had actually done her own investigation. She knew it was totally against the rules, right? But I wanted to make sure she knew that that was, and how I qualified it is. But if no one sees you, who am I to say where you're living? And then when I went to go look at the piece of land, the next lot over was someone living in their RV up in the middle of nowhere behind where all those lots are in Lake Elsinore. And I texted her and I said, yeah, we should come out and look at this land. It needs some leveling. But your neighbor living in their RV, so they must have power somehow. They got power hooked up there. So, but don't, like I said, my biggest thing about land is be vague. Don't be definitive on anything, because you're not the decision maker. The county or the city is the decision maker. And a lot of this land is in Riverside County. That's going to be easier than dealing with cities 100%. Right. But I always am very non-committal when it comes to any kind of question as far as what can I do on this land? How many animals can I have? Here's the zoning for this zoning. It allows you 2 horses per acre, whatever, right? But I say, here it is, read it. I'm not going to tell you can I have cows? Here's the zoning for that. Here's the definition of animals available. I'm not telling you that you're out in the middle of nowhere. If you put cows on it, maybe no one will say anything. But if the county comes and says cows aren't allowed on this, I'm not telling you can have cows on it.
Pat, can you repeat the measurements on the setbacks? Because people always ask about the setbacks.
It's going to be different, isn't it, per city and county?
It is different, but pretty standard. They're going to have 5-foot setbacks on the side lines, and 10 foot on the rear, and 10 foot on the front. And it may be as much as 20 on the front sometimes. But I mean, your standard setbacks are going to be 5 and 5 on the sides, and then 10 and 10 or 10 and 20 on the front and the back.
Pat, can I ask the next question? Okay.
Absolutely.
Me? Yes. Okay. Can you do like a very brief like walkthrough? Like say I was your client and I'm like, okay, I want to make an offer on this piece of land. You write the offer, you submit it. Say you open escrow. Can you do a brief, like, do you do the appraisal? Do you do inspection? Do you treat it? Like, how does the escrow works?
Okay, so the beautiful thing about land is you can do land and never meet the person and never see the land. I've written them and closed them from my couch. Okay. So if there's going to be an appraisal done, the listing agent is the one who has to be there for the appraiser, not you. Okay. And I've only had that one time. I sold a 10-acre parcel down in Fallbrook for about $500,000. And they actually used Rachel Leonard for the land loan, and they did an appraisal. I don't even know if they did a physical inspection of the appraisal, or if the bank just kind of looked at the lot and surrounding properties, and I don't know. But the nice thing about land is there's no inspections, there's no VP, there's no AVID, there's no, there's none of that stuff, right? And so, and if it's cash, it's even easier. And most of the land is cash, right?
I'm sorry, if someone finances the land, is the bank the one that says like yes or no if they have to do an appraisal?
100%. That's nothing to do with you.
Do they never ask about like to do I don't know what you would inspect, but they don't ever do.
Right. Well, if you're gonna get a loan from a bank, and I don't know how many of you are familiar with Rachel Leonard at Banner Bank, but she is the person I use for all my land. She's awesome. She she's not a bank. She works for a bank, but she's not a banker. She works 7 days a week. She picks up the phone. She doesn't fool around. She's answered the phone for me when on her way to a funeral one time. I mean, she's amazing. No, I don't give it out. No, I'm just kidding. So I'll put this on Slack. Lainey, can we figure out how I can get Rachel's number? It should be on Slack anyway, but but her name is Rachel Leonard, and her number is
503-828-6569.
Yep. That's her mobile number. Yep. 503-828-6569. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, yep. Yeah, Rachel Leonard.
I just put it in the chat for everybody.
Thank you.
And so, yeah, that's the beautiful thing for us as far as land goes. I closed one, this
Okay,
month.
Patrick, can you back up and kind of answer her question a little more in detail? Like if a buyer wants to buy a piece of land, when you write the offer, do you say, okay, well, do you want to do an inspection? Do you want to have a survey? Do you ask
No.
them stuff like that?
Nope.
No. Do
Nope.
you, I mean, what if these are first time land buyers and they don't know anything? I mean, don't you feel some sort of obligation to educate them on what they should do?
Nope. I'm not gonna. So what you're doing there is you're just creating roadblocks, right? If they're most people aren't like if they're first time land buyers, right? And I've been on the piece of property with them. When I go to write the offer, if they say to me, "Well, we'd like to have a survey done," then I will say, "Okay, we'll put that in the offer."
Do you ask them what their intentions are to use the land for?
None of my business.
Okay.
It really isn't, right?
No, it's not, but I mean,
And so once again, so then what do I do if they give me information on that? And then I give them advice that I don't know 100% is true?
no, but if they say, like the Hispanic buyers that Angela was talking about, that they want to buy a piece of land and they tell you that, and I want to put a trailer on it. Well,
At that point, I will, if someone says to me, I want to buy this piece of land and I'm planning on living in my RV, at that point, I will tell them that is probably not going to be allowed. You're not going to be able to get a permit to live in your RV on this land. Right. I mean, I'm not going to lie to them, but in the same respect, if they say, hey, I'm going to buy this piece of land, I'm not going to say, are you planning on living in your RV? Are you going to build a house? What are you doing?
no,
Are you
I
gonna
would just
have a
like
big
it. The
house
one
next
that
to
I
you?
had, I
I
said,
don't-
can I ask you what you're planning on doing with this land?
Yeah. And I don't do that because it's not,
Okay.
because it's none of my business.
Well, I kind of feel like that's our job as advisors for buying real estate. And then when my buyer said, oh, I don't know, I maybe, use it for a business, and then I direct them to the city. You should go to the city or the county and find out what you can use this land for.
Yeah. And most people, if they're looking to do it for a business, will let you know that.
Mhm.
I'm not in the, if someone calls me up and says, hey, I'm looking at this piece of land and I want to buy it and I want to make an offer, the one I made $11 on, I get a call from the guy. He says, hey, I want to make the lot was like $7,000. And he's like, hey, I want to make a $5,000 offer on this land. You know what I said? I'll write it up. It'll be in your inbox in 10 minutes. I didn't say, what are you going to do with the land? What's your plan? Have you looked at it? But no, he called me, said he wanted to buy it. I wrote the offer and I made $11. Right.
Okay.
I'm not in the business of asking him 20 questions.
It's so hard to get out of that mindset, though. You see that, right?
No, he doesn't see that because he doesn't do it because it's not his job.
I
But
mean,
it's our job when we're talking to buyers to sell them a home or a condo. We make that conversation. It's just hard to get out of that mindset to not do that with
what do
land
you mean as
buyers.
far as that goes? If someone's going to buy a home, do you sit there and say, are you planning on having a home business here? Or what are you planning to do with the garage? Are you going to subdivide it? But no, right? We don't try to figure out every different opportunity or thing they're going to do with the house. Or are you going to use it for a marijuana grow? Whatever. No, we say, oh, you want to buy this house?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And then we go through, we do our, we say, oh, would you like to, we don't have to do a home inspection. I tell people that all the time.
Mhm.
I don't force anybody to do a home inspection. I recommend it. And I say
Mhm.
it's going to be about $500. Would you like to do a home inspection? I recommend it because it'll point out big things. If they say no, I've sold houses without home inspections before.
Right, but see, you're there recommending and giving advice. It's just hard to wrap around my head around that we
Right,
don't
so-
give them advice when buying land.
I give them advice if they, if they come to me and say, hey, I'm looking to create an RV park.
Mhm.
And I want to buy this 5 acres to do an RV park, like literally put 20 RVs on it. I will literally tell them, yeah, that's not going to happen. Right? This is not, you need to find a piece of land that's zone commercial. This is zone residential. You're not going to be able to do that. But
Mhm.
at the same respect, if they come to me and say, hey, I want to buy this piece of land, I want to offer this all cash. Here's my proof of funds. I don't start 20 questions at that point.
Okay,
I don't say, okay, well,
right.
what are you planning on doing with this land? Well, no, if they come to me and say, I want to buy this land, here's proof of funds, write the offer. You know what I do? I write the offer. And if they come back and say, oh, I bought this land and now I found out I can't put 20 unit RV park on it.
Mhm.
That's not it's not my job to point out everything they can or can't do with a piece of property.
Mhm.
Right now, if they come to me and say, this is my intent, I will absolutely tell them, then we got to go find you a commercial piece of property that you
Okay,
put 20 RVs on. But if their intent, I mean, if they come to me and say, yeah, my intent is to buy this 20 acres in Awanga and I'm going to plant 4,000 pot plants on it and grow pot, I'm going to say, okay, that's the risk you're willing to take. That's probably not legal, but whatever. Yeah, but I'm not going to sit there if someone wants to buy 20 acres in Awanga, say, are you planning on growing pot? Because you can't do that. Are you planning
Mhm.
on doing this? You can't put a nuclear power plant on this.
Right.
I mean, you just run out of things to ask, you know? And so like I said, I just don't overthink it. When people come and say, I want to buy a piece of land, I write the offer. And if they have questions, I answer them to my best ability. And if I can't, if it's an answer that I'm not comfortable giving, I will punt it off to the county or the city to
Got
get
it.
answers. But I don't think it's my responsibility to say, oh, you want to buy this piece of land? Oh, have you looked at the zoning? Do you realize that it's got to be 1,500 square feet or bigger? Blah, blah, blah. No, no, I don't feel like I don't feel like that's part of my job is to point out every single thing they can or cannot do with a piece of land. Because you'd spend 4 days just trying to go through that list. You like Forrest Gump and shrimp gumbo, shrimp fried shrimp. I mean, you'd be
Well,
going.
yeah, I'm not suggesting that. I just was asking basically if you ask them upfront what they are intending on using the land for, and that's all.
Yeah, I mean, normally you know what they're intending to use the land for, right? They're looking to build a house. And they usually let you know that right up front. We're looking to buy a piece of land. We want to have room for the dogs to run and chickens or whatever, right? And the beautiful thing is I go, oh, look at next door. They got a chicken coop. You're good to go. I don't think chickens will be a problem. Neighbors won't complain. Everybody's got chickens or whatever, right? But like I said, I'm not 20 questions guy. When someone comes to me and says, I want to buy a piece of land and here's what I want to make an offer, I just say, what email am I going to send that offer to? And we're good to go.
Hey Pat, it's Felicia. I have another question.
Yep.
Have you ever told the client, when you give them maybe like the number to the county or whatever to go to do their due diligence, do they ever get like offended or pissed that you don't do it for them? Or how do you I'm just in my own personal experience with land, like when people ask me all the questions, can I do this? Can I do that? I'll be like, oh, let me try to find that out for you. But then I end up like spiraling and not getting an answer. And then honestly, it kind of just falls off.
Right. And
Tell them right away.
yeah, I mean, I just closed a piece of land on Twin Pines up in Banning, up in the hills above Banning on the way to Idlewild. Never saw the property. Couldn't pick it out of a lineup, right? And even on that, I get a call from my buyer, who had to be a great guy because his name is Pat as well. But he called and he's like, yeah, we just found out this may be in some conservation area for bighorn sheep or whatever. And I go, oh, okay. Well, what do you want to do? He goes, oh, no problem. I've got a calls out to him. And he called me back a day later. He goes, yeah, we're good to go. We're not, I don't think it's, you will just wear yourself out
Yeah,
trying.
that's definitely happened
You
with,
will wear yourself out trying to get a hold of the right person at the county or the right person at the city to get you those answers.
Yeah, we're not here to provide all the answers. We're here to direct them to where they can find the answers. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I would,
Yeah.
you know, if you're in a city, I'll direct them to this, to the planning department of the city. If I'm in the county, I direct them to the planning department of the county and just say, if you have questions about what you can build here, yada, 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 I would go on the county website and find out the, you know, I don't even give them numbers. Yeah. Yeah. Because if they are able to do that, there's no way they're going to be able to get a building permit and build a house.
Yeah,
Hey,
Patrick,
Pat,
this is
real-
Glenn.
Pat, can I ask a question real quick? Or Tuck? So can you go to the realist real quick where you pulled up the APN on this one?
Yep. Well, the APN is almost always right on the listing.
No, I know, but can you go to the realist where you had pulled up the APN?
Yep. Give me 1 second.
Steal that microphone back, Pat, please. Thank you.
Okay. So you talking about this page that had the that had,
No, the realist page, not
Okay.
the listing page.
okay. Here's the realist page.
And this is a trick that a guy had shown me that I worked with in the past, and he's done a lot of land deals. And I don't know that it works every single time, but it seems to work every time I've used it. And I've only used it a couple times, so
My computer's just slow.
that's okay.
It's a sign that I paid 4 times as much for my phone as I did for my laptop.
Yeah,
Okay.
doubt.
So here's the realist page.
okay, now go to neighbors. Now click on hybrid. It's going to be up in the right-hand corner there. You see it says roadmap. Right there,
Oh, yep.
it's
Yep.
go to hybrid.
Oh, dude,
Now
that's phenomenal.
you'll see the property lines, you'll see the street names, you'll see just about everything right there.
Dude, you should have been teaching this class. That's awesome. I never used that
So,
before.
yeah, one thing I noticed right away is that it appears, now I'm not a surveyor or civil engineer, but that one property where number 1 is overlaps to this property. So,
Yeah, that's because those lines are not exact, right?
no, I know. But if you go back to the property detail, down below, it'll show you the square and the property lines and all that stuff. Go way down to the bottom.
Yep.
And then there's the map. So you kind of can confirm some of the stuff, but there you go. You can actually see the actual footages that's on the realist. But
And
when
I-
you go to neighbors,
This
it's pretty
map-
amazing.
Yeah, the neighbors thing I didn't even know about, so I appreciate that. The
You can also do comparables, and it'll do the comparable as well and kind of show you where the location is.
okay. Well, and
But
I always print this page out. I always print this out with it is so much cleaner, the map you get off a realist than it is when you get off the assessor's page, right?
yeah.
Because it
There is another website, but I just wanted to share that with you real quick so that,
Oh, that's awesome.
and like I said, I don't know that it works way out in the middle of nowhere. But I would imagine it does because an APN number is an APN number.
No, you're 100% right. That's awesome. I never even knew that I literally have never clicked on anything on that except property details. That's awesome.
No, I wouldn't have either, but I worked with a gentleman who did a lot of land and stuff out in the Ukaipa area. And
thank
this
you
is
so
one
much.
thing that he had showed me. So
Awesome. Now we have one more. You had hang on, we had a question in the
Pat, what do you say to people? I had somebody that was interested in land and they were asking me about meeting at the land and if I was going to need money from them. What do you say to people when they say stuff like that?
You were going to need money from them? Yes. So they were saying they wanted to pay you to go look at land? I've never taken a penny from anybody to show a property. I just say, you don't have to pay me anything. I'll meet you. I've had people that I worked with for a long time, you know, and they're like, boy, we want to give you money for gas. You know, you've driven all over and shown all these things. And I always just say, this is the cost of doing business in what I do, right? And I've never taken a penny from, the only thing I ever got, and I paid it back in spades, was Faith Auto Glass, which is right here on Front Street in Temecula. I showed the father a bunch of houses and he ended up not buying. And I had a crack in my windshield. And he said, bring the car by, I'll replace the windshield for you. And I went and bought him a Keurig for their office as a thank you. And I probably spent more on the Keurig than they did on replacing the glass on my car. But because I didn't feel comfortable taking that without giving something. And I went in there and they had a shitty old coffee maker. And I was like, I'm going to get you guys a Keurig. And I bought him a big box of coffee, of K-Cups. And I went and bought him a Keurig. And Faith, who's his daughter, that's why it's Faith Auto Glass, she was so appreciative. But other than that, I've never taken money from someone to show property. Right. Well, I mean, how many of us get the question? How much do I pay you? Right. And here's the answer I give everybody when anybody asks me that question, because this is how I head off the $4.95 TC fee. I say, you don't pay me anything. I get paid by the seller. You are going to, when we do a deal, you're going to get a buyer's compensation agreement for $4.95. That money does not go to me. That goes to our transaction coordinator. And I head that off at the pass if they ask. But I always make it very clear. I'm not getting paid. My line I tell people is this: a real estate agent for a buyer is like going to a car dealership and you walk on the lot of a car dealership and there's a guy working at the car dealership that knows all the ins and outs of buying cars, knows exactly what the dealership paid for the car, knows all the ins and outs of the finance department, this and that, get you the best deal they can on the car. And the car dealership pays that guy to get you the best deal that you can on the car. That's what we are to buyers, right? And that's my analogy that I explain to people what we do for them. You don't pay me. I get paid by the seller, but I represent you. I don't know who gave us the neighbor thing. Who is that? Renee, thank you so much, Renee. That's huge.
You're quite welcome.
Any other questions, guys? If
There was
everybody-
a question on the comments on the chat that asked if you would go over a purchase contract to buy land.
Okay.
Patrick, can you hear me?
Yep.
And just to go back to that question about answering questions for a client, you have to remember, and this is from our attorneys at PWR, is that if the question being asked becomes a material fact for the buyer and you presented incorrect information, then you are going to be liable, which is why our attorneys inform us that even if it's to ask whether a home is within a specific school district, what the crime rate may be, we always direct them to those specific websites so that you remove the responsibility from your shoulders over to them so that you don't get sued by that specific buyer.
Oh,
So just
100%.
be careful. You just FYI.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. That's why I try to never give definitive answers on anything. And I try to deflect. Like if people say, what are the crime rates? I go, boy, the site I use is neighborhoodscout.com. If you want to, check it out, that'll tell you, what. Now, if I'm specifically looking for a client and they say, hey, I'm looking and I want to buy in Fontana, right? I'll go on Neighborhood Scout and I will, I'll look and see where the houses are that are in the quote unquote safest neighborhoods according to statistics. And I'll look for them in those areas. But if they come to me and say, what's the safest area? I'll say, oh, you should there's a website you can check. And if they say to me, is this a safe area? I say, there's the website, check it out. I don't ever say, oh no, this is totally unsafe. This, whatever, or this is the safest area in town. I don't ever say that. And
Pat, you said it was neighborhoodwhat.com?
Neighborhood Scout.
Oh, Scout. Thank you.
And if you just Google, crime in any city, it'll bring up 3 or 4 different websites that you can use to check that out. Okay, so as far as God, my computer is so slow, it's crazy. Yeah, there's a bunch of them. You mean for crime? Yeah. Okay, so I hate the fact that the classic form editor is being eliminated. I hate the new one, but anyway, we're going to open it up here.
Pat, once you use it 4 times, you'll like it more. I've
started using it because I know it's coming to an end, and it's okay. I like the fact, I know you can add different documents and things. So, your vacant land purchase agreement, right? The VLPA or whatever the hell it's called. You should have a template set up, right? And I'm sure, I'm hoping that the training that everybody, when they come on the team, they teach templates, right? But it's very, very similar as far as what the seller and buyer are paying for as a purchase agreement for an RPA, right? This is the one I just put in escrow today. 45,000 all cash, 20-day escrow.
Is 20 days usually pretty standard?
It all depends on the client, right? I've got one waiting to get signed for land down in Cathedral City, and we're doing a 60-day escrow because he wants to make sure it's commercial property, and he wants to get some assurances from the city that he can do what he wants. So I wrote a 60-day escrow, 55-day inspection period. That gives him almost 2 months to be able to get his answers from the city. And then if I tell people all the time, we can write a very long escrow with a long inspection period. And so that way that gives you time to get any answers you want from the city. At the point where you've become comfortable, right? You say, okay, I'm good. I'm comfortable. The city's going to let me do what I want. We move escrow up. It's an all cash deal. So we just say, okay, we had a 60-day escrow, but he's satisfied in 15 days. We call escrow and say, yeah, we're going to wire funds to close, and we'd like to close as soon as possible. No seller is going to argue with closing early on a vacant piece of land. But I always, if they say to me they have questions for the city or things like that, I will write a longer escrow so they can get answers.
Thank you.
Assuming they've already done their due diligence, they call you, they're like, write it up. What is the shortest escrow that you can do? 10? Okay.
It all depends. I mean, so, but 10 days is easy. I've done 10 days on a house before, actually, when it was all cash. But I usually try to keep my escrows, if they don't have a ton of questions, 15 or 20 days. That gives the seller time to get, the NHD report and all the things they got to get out and get that inference, to the seller or to the buyer for them to look it over. But other than that, it's pretty standard. This is what I talk about. Like, people say, oh, that they want me to write an all cash offer, but I don't have any proof of funds. I check here, we'll give them 3 days after offers accepted, right? And then I did have getting proof of funds and we send it over. But so I gave them 15 days out of the 20 to do their inspection. Adjusted these numbers down because of our shorter escrow from 17 to 10, just to make sure, because we don't want to be getting documents in day 17 when we're supposed to be closing on day 20. And other than that, it's very similar as far as escrow fees. I have the seller pay for the NHD report. I have that on every RPA, and I have that on my land. That should not have been checked, but it is. Because that environmental survey phase 1 is normally for commercial properties. Escrow fees each pay their own share. Owner pays his own title insurance. County transfer fees paid by the city. This is in county, so I didn't check the city because Whitewater is not a city. And other than that, and then down here you can add your addendums if you want to add the septic well, property monument, and propane addendum. That's the one where you can request to have the survey done to mark the corners. You can have, there's different. If you're not familiar with this, let's bring it up. So if you're selling a house or buying a house that has septic, you definitely want to make sure that this, and I should do it. I don't, but I should actually have a template set up that says residential purchase with septic. And then this would always be part of it. But this is where you ask for your septic inspection. If you're buying a house that has a septic tank, right? If it has a well, this is where you request the well, and there's all different things you can ask for. Usually you just want to have an inspection done, make sure the well is producing water. And then you get down here in property monument corners and boundaries, and you check, okay, you want to say the seller is going to pay to mark the corners, right? If it's a rectangular lot, that's really all you need. If it's an odd shaped lot, you can I don't know what that means, property boundaries and property corners. I don't understand unless it just means they put more markers on the property. Do you know, Howard, what the hell the difference would be? between property corners and property boundaries. I don't even know what the difference would be, honestly. But you know, for me, if I'm buying a piece of property, I just want to know where the corners are, right? That's the most important thing. I've never done anything with the propane thing before, ever, but if it has propane, it has propane. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I've never used this for propane, but I have used it for septic, and I have used it for well, and I definitely have used it for having property boundaries marked, the corners. But other than that, the vacant land purchase agreement it's easier than an RPA because there's no home inspection. There's no, you're not asking for a home warranty. You don't have any of that stuff. It's really just want to, you know, get your, to me, the secret to this is have your templates set up properly. And then everything just becomes so much easier. Does that make sense? Any other questions? I'm going to take that as a no.
I didn't see any
And
more.
guys, if you don't have my number, I will give it to you right now. It's 951-225-5562. You can always reach me through Slack. You can make a phone call to me through Slack or whatever. So it's not like, but there's plenty of people on this team that'll tell you can call me anytime. If I don't take your call, it's because I'm in the middle of something. I'm in a showing or I'm on the phone. But if I will, text me or call me, I will always call you back. And I'll help you out in any way I can. And I've been doing that since I've been on the team.
And would you be willing to give that purchase agreement to Lainey and have her put it in the docs so we have a sample of how the purchase
Yeah, I'll get her a
agreement?
PDF. I'll get her a PDF of this purchase agreement so she can put it in there.
That would be great.
Yeah, we'll do.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. And like I said, any other questions, please reach out to me anytime. I hope this was helpful, guys.
Super helpful. Thanks, Pat.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Yeah, man.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you,
you,
Pat.
Pat. Thanks, Pat.
Hey, can you put your phone number in the chat? What's his phone number?